Hello guys, how are you? I hope you are good and I'm good too. And today I'm going to read a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson. And you know, till now I didn't completely read this book, but I am going to read a small portion which I liked. The subtitle or the small title which they give, Rockstar Problem. So it is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's here is a 6 page only, so I'm going to read as much possible. Sorry, as fast as possible. So let's start without wasting any time. Rockstar Problem. In 1983, a talented young guitarist was kicked out of his band in the worst possible way. The band had just been signed to record a deal and they were about to record their first album, but a couple days before recording began, the band showed the guitarist the door. No warning, no discussion, no dramatic blowout. They literally woke him up one day by handing him a bus ticket home. As he sat on the bus back to Los Angeles from New York, the guitarist kept asking himself, how did this happened? What did I do wrong? What will I do now? Record contract did not exactly fall out of the sky, especially for Rackus upstart metal bands. Had he missed his one and only shot? But by the time the bus hit LA, the guitarist had gotten over his self-pity and had vowed to start a new band. He decided that his new band would so successful that his old band would forever regret their decision. He would become so famous that they would be subjected to decades of seeing him on the TV, hearing him on the radio, seeing posters of him in the street and pictures of him in a magazine. They would be flipping burgers somewhere, loading vans from their shitty club gigs, fat drunk with ugly wives, and he would be rocking out in front of a stadium crowd live on television. He bathed in the tears of his uh, betrayers, each tear wiped dry by a crisp, clean $100 bill. And so the guitarist worked as if possessed by a musical demon. He spent months recruiting the best musician he could find, far better musicians than his previous bandmates. He wrote dozens of songs and practiced religiously. His seething anger fueled his ambition. Revenge became his muse. Within a couple years, his new band had signed a record deal of their own, and a year after that, their first record would go gold. The guitarist's name was Dave Mustaine, and the new band he formed was a legendary heavy metal band Megadeth. Megadeth would be go on to sell over 25 million albums and tour the world many times over. Today, Mustaine is considered one of the most brilliant and influential musicians in the history of heavy metal music. Fortunately, the band he was kicked out of was Metallica, which has sold over 180 million albums worldwide. Metallica is considered many to be one of the greatest rock band of all time, and because of this, in a rare intimate interview in 2003, a tearful Mustaine admitted that he could not help and still considered himself a failure. Despite all that he would accomplish, his mind, he would always be a guy who got kicked out of Metallica. We are apps. We think we are all sophisticated. We our toaster ovens and designer footwear, but we are just a bunch of finely ornamented apps. And because we are apps, we instinctively measure ourselves against others. And why I first stated, the question is not whether we evaluate ourselves against others, rather the question is by what standard do we measure ourselves. They must stand whether he realized it or not, choose to measure himself by whether he was a more successful or popular than Metallica. The experience of getting through out of his former band was so painful for him that he adopted success relative to Metallica as the metric by which to measure himself in his music career. Despite taking a horrible event in his life and making something positive out of it, Mustaine did with Megadeth. Macbeth. His choice to pull on Metallica's success as his life defining metric continued or to hurt him decades later. Despite all the money and that fans and the accolades, he still considers himself a failure. Now you and I look at Dave Mustaine's situation and laugh. Here this guy is with $1 million, hundreds of thousands of adoring fans, a career doing the thing he loved best, and still he is getting all weepy eyed, and his rock star buddies from 20 years ago were way more famous than he is. This is because you and I have different values than a musician does, Mustang does, and we measure ourselves by different metrics. Our metrics are probably more like I don't want to work a job for a boss I hate, or I would like to earn money enough to send my kid to the school, or I would happy to not wake up in a drainage ditch. And by this matrix, Mustang is widely successful, but by his metrics being more popular and successful than Metallica, he is a failure. Our values determine the metric by which we measure ourselves and everyone else. Onoda's value of loyalty to the Japanese Empire is what sustained him a Lubang for almost 30 years. But this same value is also what made him miserable upon his return to Japan. Mustang metric of being better than Metallica likely helped him launch an incredibly successful music career, but then the same metric later tortured him in the spite of his success. If you want to change how you see your problem, you have to change what you value and or how you measure failure or success. As an example, let's look at another musician who got kicked out of another band. His story early echoes that of the Dave Mustaine. Although it happened 2 decades earlier, it was 1962, and there was a buzz around an up-and-coming band from Liverpool, England. This band had funny haircuts and an even funnier name, but their music was undeniably good, and the record industry was finally taking notice. There was John, the lead singer and songwriter, Paul, the boy's face romantic bass player, and George, the rebellious lead guitar player, and then there was a drummer. He was considered the best looking of the bunch. The girls all went wild for him, and it was his face that began to appear in the magazine first. He was the most professional member of this group too. He did not do drugs. He had a steady girlfriend. There were even a few people in the suits and the ties who thought he should be the face of the band, not John or Paul. His name was Pete Best, and in 1962, after landing their first record contract, the other three members of the Beatles quietly got together and asked their manager Brian Epstein to fire him. Epstein agonized over the decision. He liked Pete, so he put it off, hoping the other three guys would change their mind. Months later, a mere 3 days before the recording of the first record began, Epstein finally called Best of his files. There, the manager unceremoniously told him to piss off and find another band. He gave no reason, no explanation, no condolence, just told him that other guy wanted him out of the group. Oh shit. Best of luck. As a replacement, the band brought in some oddball named Ringo Starr. Ringo was older and had big funny nose. Ringo agreed to get the same ugly haircut as John, Paul, and George, and insisted on writing songs about octopuses and submarines. The other guy said, "Sure, fuck it, why not?" Within 6 months of the Best firing, Beatlemania had erupted, making John, Paul, George, and Peter Ringo arguably four of the most famous faces on the entire planet. Meanwhile, Best understandably fell into a deep depression and spent a lot of doing what an Englishman will do if you give him a reason to drink. The rest of the 60s were not king to Pete Best. By 1965, he had sued two of the Beatles for slander, and all of His other musical project had failed horribly. In 1968, he attempted suicide only to be talked out of it by mother. His life was wrecked. Best did not have the same redemptive story Dave Mustaine did. He never became a global superstar or made millions of dollars. Yet, in many ways, Best ended up better off than Mustaine. In an interview, 1964, Best said, "I am happier than I would have been with the Beatles." What the hell? Best explained that the circumstances of his getting kicked out of the Beatles